What's a secret you'll never tell your partner but are willing to tell strangers? Story 1. She heard a cat. She's very much a cat person. Once she picked me up from a friend's house and was driving through town. A cat ran in front of us and we heard a thud underneath the car. She screamed and looked in the rearview mirror and we saw the cat stagger into a driveway. She was pretty upset and convinced she had heard it badly. I told her no. The cat clearly ran across the street and is probably fine. She was meeting some friends and I was taking the car home, so she asked if I would check the driveway of that house on my way home to make sure the cat was okay. I said I would. I drove back that way, parked a few houses down and looked in the driveways and there it was, lying motionless, sprawled out on the ground. Oh crap. Part of me was thinking, just go home and say you saw it happily licking its bum, but curiosity got the better of me and I wanted to check to make sure it was still alive. The problem was that it was a gated house that was also a bed and breakfast, so I didn't want to just wander in on someone else's property. So I called the phone number on the sign at the side of the road. By this stage, I'm thinking, what the hell are you at? You should have been home long ago, but I was on autopilot and just went with it. The owner answers and I tell him, hey, there's a possibility of a dead cat in your driveway. Do you mind if I come in just to check if it's okay? The guy is like, yeah, I guess. It's just that I'm out of town and there's no one here, but it's fine if you want to let yourself in the side gate. He also says thanks, so at this point I have to do it. I'm too far in now. I let myself in and I walked over and there she is, a big dead cat. Oh balls. Well, I'll just tell my wife the cat wasn't there and we can forget about the whole thing, except the owner now knows there could be a dead cat on his property. And when he gets home and sees it lying there, he's got my number and will know I just left it there. So now I have to make a decision. Do I leave this dead cat here or do I take it away? And if I do, what do I do with it? Across the street is a store, so I walk over and buy bin bags and rubber gloves, make my way back over and scoop the fluffy corpse into a bin bag. Now that I have a dead cat in a bag, I walk over to my car carrying this black bin bag. People are walking past me on the street, smiling and giving that upward nod that strangers give. I give a nod back, but I'm not fully into it because they don't know I'm walking past them with a dead cat in a bin bag. I don't feel like taking it into my car because, well, it's a dead cat. So I Googled vets and there happens to be one not too far away, within walking distance. I rang and asked them if they dispose of dead pets and they said they do. So I made my way down there, in through the front door and told the receptionist that I was just talking to them about pet disposal. She looks at me slightly, freaked out, and says yes. I produce the bag and say, oh well, I have a cat in here, can I just give it to you? She's like, yeah, you just leave it at our back door, back outside, and charges me 50 quid for the pleasure. I walked back to the car and sat there for at least, half an hour, silence, and as still as a dead cat, trying to process the last hour of my life. I text my wife and say, no, honey, I couldn't find the cat. She must be fine and ran off somewhere safe. I'll see you at home. Now, props to this dude for doing the decent thing for the cat. Story 2. When I was a teen, my grandma passed away. For years, I had been bothering my parents for my own gold necklace. Well, Gram had a little bit of money and she gave me $300 for a gold necklace in her will. It was my pride and my joy. I had it around my neck for 17 years before I met my wife. It was off my neck maybe 3 times in those 17 years. My wife, then girlfriend, knew how much it meant to me and asked to wear it once. Well, never came home. She had lost it somewhere or had it gotten stolen. I was distraught like crazy for 3 or 4 days while we turned our house upside down looking for it. Inevitably, I gave up, but she was very bothered by it all. So I decided to go to a pawn shop and buy the closest I could get to an exact duplicate, and then I just told her that I found the necklace in the couch cushions. To this day, she thinks that I found my necklace from my grandmother, but this is actually version 2. Story 3. I never paid for her engagement ring. I went to a custom jeweler to have her ring made. It's a beautiful piece, and she loves it dearly, and it certainly wasn't cheap. It is appraised and insured for around $10,000. The jeweler was dealing with a lot of family issues at the time and was incredibly disorganized. I went to pick up the ring and I brought my checkbook out to pay for it, and when she handed me the ring, I took it out and asked her who to make the check out to. She said, oh no, don't worry about it right now, just send me a check in the mail. I thought that was strange, but sure, okay. She then hurried off to help another customer and I left, but she never told me what the final price was. For the next 6 months, I texted and called the jeweler asking, hey, just tell me what amount to put and I'll mail you the check. And there was always a reason she couldn't tell me. Oh, sorry, I'm out right now. I'll find it and text you later. Her shop was a few hours away from where I live, so it wasn't feasible to just stop by and handle it in person. I tried for 6 months, but after that, I stopped calling and texting and just figured I got the ring for free. I wouldn't tell my spouse because I don't want her to think I took advantage of the situation or that somehow the ring isn't as meaningful because I didn't pay for it. Story 4. The one time when she and I first got together and she spent the night together, I made it very clear that I wanted her to leave in the morning. She was uncomfortable and brought it up later because of my behavior. I'll never tell her it's because since I only had one bathroom at the apartment and she was on the toilet that morning forever, it probably wasn't that long, just had time, and my bum runs on its own schedule, I had to do my business in a small trash can on the back patio area I had. I had a high fence so no one could see, but there was a mess I needed to clean, both outside and on myself. But of course, when she's out of the bathroom, she has no idea and is asking about breakfast or whatever while I'm covered in poop. After she left, I tossed my clothes and the trash can in the dumpster and took a long shower. And she also doesn't know that's the reason I've insisted any apartment we live in has 2 bathrooms. We have lived in 4 apartments together and everyone has 2 bathrooms because I'm not doing that again. So this guy's got a one-track mind, 2 bathrooms or bust, because really, ain't nobody got time for surprise outdoor adventures when nature calls. Story 5. That he legit saved my life. He's a nervous, humble guy who doesn't like undue pressure or praise, so I keep it to myself just how bad off I was before he showed up. Because even in the aftermath of my mom's passing and even in the face of some pretty nasty health problems, which I was just letting slide because I was so depressed I was kind of hoping they'd end me, I was very, very good at smiling and being charming. 3 years of taking care of a terminally ill parent taught me how to smile, bear it, and feign positivity even when you're running on empty. And I never felt like I could be anything other than the fixer, the doer, the person who always knew what to say, the reliable one, the one who has every answer and can make bad feelings go away by just fixing the problem for you. I was not allowed to be negative, ever. But he legit came in and helped me with my mom's estate, cheered me into getting out of a dead-end career, put a stake in my heart of some severely toxic relationships I had, and even helped me budget so I could finally afford health insurance, which wasn't a moment too soon because I caught some bad stuff right in the nick of time. And he just kind of did it. In his mind, it was nothing much because you were on the right track, but you had a lot on your plate and needed help. And I just nod and agree because, well, what else do I say? I actually wasn't. I wasn't just going to let myself pass on because I was exhausted and miserable, smiles aside. Thanks for intervening. Story 6. I got intimate with a snowman in a ditch behind my house. Though it was innocent, it's not something I talk about with anyone except the thousands of Redditors and millions of people who saw the story I posted here that someone put on YouTube. Anyway, I guess I could tell it again. So I believe it was March 1993 and a huge blizzard swept the East Coast. I was young, bored, and extremely frisky. I didn't know then what exactly it was that I was feeling, but I knew that it was normal for my age. Well, we were out of school for what must have been like 3 weeks, but it felt like eternity. I wasn't around anyone my age. There were no girls in my neighborhood, and obviously there was no internet for, browsing of a certain kind. But even if there was, I'd definitely be too afraid to attempt it. One evening, before dark, I decided enough was enough and I just couldn't handle the urge anymore. I'd been holding back for weeks because I was too embarrassed to do anything in the bathroom. The guilt and anxiety of someone catching me was just too much. My room wasn't an option either because the door didn't lock, and when my door was shut, someone would ask why or just open it. It's far too risky and I couldn't jeopardize my reputation as the normal person in my family. I threw on some snow clothes and scuttled off into the wilderness behind my house with a plan. I wasn't sure I'd actually do it, but I wasn't exactly thinking straight either for obvious reasons. Once I arrived at my destination, I decided to slide down into a gully that was about, let's say, 15 feet deep. I sat there for a few minutes and listened for footsteps in case someone saw me, but it was so silent that I could almost hear my inner voice say, "Don't do it, man. This is the moment of no return," I told myself. I was like a runaway train, never going back, the wrong way, on a one-way track. Anyway, I got to work and started shaping snow into a female body. She had a nice chest, curves, and the necessary inlet. I unzipped and went ahead with the task that lay before me, and within a minute or so, it was all over. A few seconds of guilt and shame overcame me as I zipped up and erased the evidence. I crawled out of the gully and back through the woods to my house. I went to my room and tried my best to forget her, but to my surprise, that would be impossible. And every time it snows, I still think of her. A guy's gotta do what a guy's gotta do, right? Give it up for his creativity. So if you find yourself in a jam, would you take the same route? Smash that like button if you're in, and subscribe to my channel for more innovative fixes to everyday dilemmas. Story 7. When he was away for work for 4 months and I was working full-time, single parenting, depressed, one morning I hurried our kid out to the car before daycare with my hands full of stuff. So I put everything in the car, put it in gear, and looked over my shoulder to back up. I backed up around 2 feet and hit the brakes. I didn't put our kid in the car. I was looking at an empty car seat. My toddler was standing beside his door on the passenger side waiting for me, and now he was crying because I thought I was ditching him. If I hadn't looked over my shoulder, I could have run over our kid. I guess blame, sleep deprivation, and all the other things going on, but my mom guilt still eats me alive when I think about those 2 feet. And my husband will never know because I don't ever want him to think I'm a bad mom or know exactly how bad it was for me while he was away. Story 8. I've been so depressed lately. Do not like my job. I have a crippling anxiety driving to work every day. I'm in 6-figure debt, so I can't leave. I can't provide the life my family deserves, and it's only going to get tighter in the coming months. I cry most days. My wife and son are the only things in my life that keep me going. They do make me happy, though it's a kind of sad happy because I feel like I'm letting them down. My wife knows I'm not myself, but I won't tell her how bad things are. I know it'll get better, but it's just very hard right now. I will talk with my wife tonight and we'll try to come up with a plan. Not quite sure how, but she is going to get her husband back. My son is getting his dad back. Story 9. My girlfriend of 5 years has been deaf since she was 6 years old. She reads lips pretty well, but prefers sign language. I didn't know a single sign when I met her, but I could tell right away there was something between us, so I started learning after I got home from our first date. Fast forward a few years, I'm now fluent in ASL and we use it to talk most exclusively. When she's not looking though, I talk to her even though she can't hear me or see my lips to read. I tell her how much I love her, how I'm going to marry her someday, how beautiful she is, etc. I've even been practicing proposing, so it's not so terrifying when I actually do it. She's no idea, and I plan to keep it that way. This dude's got a whole secret sign language groove going on with his girl, whispering love behind her back. It's like a secret love code. Awesomely romantic. Story 10. The thing that made me realize that I was in love with her was that when I was taking a shower and got done, I walked into the room and she must not have heard me get out. She was lying on her side of the bed with her eyes closed and she was picking her nose. I didn't want to embarrass her, so I stepped back out and from a distance asked where I set my clean clothes as I was walking back in to make it seem like I was just coming in. She was visibly startled and quickly stopped but continued to lay there with her eyes closed. I pretended that I saw nothing, but I couldn't help but smile. It was such an innocent and human moment. I had no idea why, but it made me realize right then and there that I loved everything about her. And as silly as that moment was, there was a beauty in it, and I cherished that memory. Story 11. His parents are really pissing me off, and I do not want to be around them anymore. They're lousy grandparents to our son, but not to his sister's children. For clarity, I love my in-laws. My husband and I have been together for 12 years. We just had our first son last year after trying for a whole decade. He was born very early and spent a good chunk of his life in the NICU. He's now 10 months old and has been home for almost 6 of those. This issue I have had with my in-laws is a very recent development. It started immediately when he came home. We told both sides of our family we wanted at least a week for the 3 of us to just get adjusted. We also had 4 different doctor appointments in that first week. When my husband told his mom that we wanted that week, she was immediately upset. She assumed that my family would be coming by. He assured her that they were, just not when she was still in belief that my mom would be here. My mom has a very demanding job and works a lot of OT. She manages to come see him at least once a week, and she lives about 40 minutes away. When she comes up, she spends several hours here. His parents live between 10 and 15 minutes away, depending on traffic. His dad does not work, and his mom has a lot of days where she works from home without a set schedule. They come up sometimes once a week and sometimes once every 2 weeks for no longer than 1 hour at a time. I have told them on so many occasions that they're welcome to come up anytime, as long as they call prior to coming in case we have an appointment or my mom is here. Our son is on oxygen and is still very high risk, so we try not to take him out too often or have him get overstimulated with too many visitors in one day. They see my sister-in-law's children daily or very close to daily. They're older, between 10 and 15 in age. There are 4 children, and the younger ones are not well behaved. When asked about why they don't come to see him more often recently, Phil was coming up with all kinds of things to be annoyed about. A Facebook post about a college my husband posted, a security camera we have in our living room from when we took a vacation that isn't plugged in, and that I was laying down because I got so little sleep the night before. I did talk to my husband about how I was feeling. He said he totally understands and said he's been feeling a little upset about them himself. Again, I don't hate them. They're very dear to me, which is why it upsets me so much that they don't want to see their grandson. Story 12. When I became legal, I started taking care of my siblings full-time because my mom is substance dependent. I've always helped financially, but this was the first time I was 100% responsible for them. I told my little brother he could have his 9th birthday at the trampoline park and that I would pay for his and a friend's dinner afterwards. There was a miscommunication, and he invited his entire class, which I didn't find out about until the night before. So I was on the hook for about 20 children? I had no way to pay for that. I sobbed in the bathroom and then texted a guy who had been offering me a couple of grand to sleep with him and did what I thought was the only way to pay for my brother's party. It's the lowest I've ever been in my life, and I've never hated myself more. But that is the first big birthday party my brother has ever had, and when I look back on the pictures of the party and see how joyful he looks, I'm not sure that I would take it back. He deserved it, and nobody will ever know how I was able to make that happen. Sometimes when life backs us up into a corner, we've got to roll with it. It's all about the end game after all. Story 13. That I'm so miserable. He's a good guy, but 20 years later, we deserve better fits. The problem is that we're not awful together, and everything is just so enmeshed at this point. My political and religious views have changed so much while he hasn't. We don't have meaningful conversations anymore. We have great bedroom chemistry, but I don't even want to because I don't feel a connection. We're making long-term retirement plans, but I feel like it's just me smiling and nodding to whatever he wants. I don't think there's a better fit out there for me. I'm scared of leaving the safety I've invested in. All of our retirement savings are in his name. I don't want to hurt his feelings either. Whenever I suggest marriage counseling, he blows it off as an unnecessary expense. So I don't nag, try to keep the status quo and be thankful for stability, at least. Story 14. I'm insane about her, but no matter how big, hairy, and manly I am, I feel so insecure that I don't deserve her. And I've stayed up at night crying while she lays next to me because I feel like one day she'll realize she can do better. I'm afraid that if I don't tell her how much she means to me constantly, she'll forget, and if I say it too much, she'll feel smothered. Story 15. Not me, but my friend. So his wife was really sick, but was also extremely stubborn and religious. She believed that God will heal her, so he came to me and asked for a few of my sleeping pills. They're really strong and get you into a deep sleep quickly. So he puts the pills in her drink like clockwork, and in 30 minutes, she's out cold. He then asks me to help her get her to the hospital. The next morning, she wakes up in the hospital. On top of that sickness she had stage 1 cancer, but she survived and it's all good now. But he made me swear I wouldn't tell her what we did. Alright, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you made it this far, I'm sure you'll also enjoy What Secret Are You Taking to the Grave? Story 4 is a cliffhanger and friggin' hilarious. I'll see you in that video, and thank you for watching this one.